cancer's a hell of a third wheel in a marriage. That's what I kept thinking as I sat in our kitchen, staring at the overnight bag Vera had half-packed for my next hospital visit. The diagnosis had come 3 weeks ago. Terminal, they said. 6 months, maybe 8 if I was lucky. "Elliot, you need to take your pills," Vera called from upstairs, her voice carrying that new tone I'd grown to hate. Distant. Clinical. Like she was already practicing for widowhood. I swallowed the bitter medication and watched my wife of 12 years descend the stairs, perfectly dressed as always. Vera Harper had always been ambitious, climbing the corporate ladder at the insurance company where she worked as an HR manager. But lately, she seemed more focused on her phone than on me. "I'll be late tonight," she said, not meeting my eyes. Girls' night with Sienna. That was the third girls' night this week. I caught a glimpse of her phone screen as she texted, "Miss you already? Can't wait for forever, Elle." Elle? Since when did Sienna sign her texts with just an initial? "Who's Elle?" I asked casually. Vera's face flushed. "What? Oh, that's Lila, new girl at work. You don't know her." But I could tell she was lying. After 12 years of marriage, you learn to read the signs. The way she avoided eye contact, the slight tremor in her voice, the way she clutched her phone protectively. Mrs. Doyle from next door knocked on our kitchen window and waved. She'd been our neighbor for 8 years, and nothing happened on Maple Street without her knowing about it. "Your wife's been coming home late," she whispered to me later when Vera was at work. "Saw her with a man last Tuesday. Tall, expensive car. Didn't look like a girlfriend to me." The pieces started falling into place. The new perfume. The way she flinched when I tried to hold her hand. The guilt gifts. Expensive coffee, my favorite cookies, a new watch I'd never asked for. 2 days later, I came home early from a doctor's appointment. My key turned in the lock, and I heard Vera upstairs, frantically moving around. When she came down, she was carrying a suitcase. "I can't do this, Elliot," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. "I'm too young to be a nurse. I'm 34 years old. I need to live my life." I stared at her, speechless. Outside, a car honked. Sienna's Honda Civic, engine running. "You're leaving? Now? While I'm dying?" "You don't understand," Vera said, tears streaming down her face, but they looked more like tears of relief than sadness. "I never signed up for this. I thought we'd have decades together, kids, travel, a real life. Not this." She gestured vaguely at me, like I was already a corpse. "I found someone who can give me the life I deserve," she continued. "Someone healthy. Someone with a future." The suitcase wheels clicked against our hardwood floor as she dragged it toward the door. "I'll send for the rest of my things." And just like that, she was gone. 12 years of marriage, reduced to the sound of a car door slamming and tires on wet asphalt. I sat alone in our house, my house now, and laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was screaming. "Guess I'm not on her insurance anymore," I muttered to the empty kitchen. 3 weeks later, everything changed. "Mr. Harper?" Dr. Martinez looked embarrassed as he flipped through my file. "I need to discuss your recent test results." I braced myself for worse news. Maybe 3 months instead of 6. "There's been an error," he said carefully. "Your original biopsy was contaminated. We ran new tests, and you don't have cancer. The mass we found was benign. You're going to be fine." I sat in stunned silence. "I'm not dying?" "You're not dying. I'm so sorry for the confusion. This kind of mix-up is extremely rare, but—" I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about Vera, probably picking out curtains for her new life with Mr. L, whoever he was. That evening, my best friend Frankie came over with beer and pizza. Frankie worked construction with me. We'd been partners for 15 years, building half the houses in our neighborhood. "Dude, you're like a zombie," he said, cracking open a beer. "You came back from the dead. Time to haunt some people." "She doesn't know yet," I said slowly. Vera thinks I'm still dying. Frankie's eyes lit up with mischief. Oh, this is beautiful. What's the plan? I thought about it. Vera had abandoned me when she thought I was dying. She'd chosen someone else over our marriage vows. But she didn't know I'd recovered. I'm going to let her think I'm still sick, I decided. See how far she takes this new relationship. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The next night, Frankie and I went to Murphy's bar downtown. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and gossip flowed as freely as the beer. Sienna was there, already 3 drinks in, holding court at a corner table. She'd been Vera's best friend since college, but apparently their friendship had some cracks. "Oh, Elliot," she called out when she saw me. "How are you feeling? Vera told me about, you know." "Hanging in there," I said, playing the part of the dying man. "How's she doing? We haven't talked much since—" "She's happy," Sienna said, but there was bitterness in her voice. "Really happy. She and Lucas bought a condo together, posted about it on Instagram, new beginnings and all that." "Lucas. So that was Mr. L. Lucas Brandt?" I asked, my blood running cold. "The doctor from the hospital?" Sienna nodded. "Your wife sure knows how to upgrade, from a dying construction worker to a successful physician." Lucas Brandt. The same Dr. Brandt who'd been my friend for 10 years. Who'd come to our barbecues, who'd been Vera's shoulder to cry on when I got my diagnosis. Who'd sat in our living room and told me to stay strong while apparently planning to steal my wife. Randy, an orderly from the hospital, overheard our conversation. "You talking about Dr. Brandt? Dude's been busy. Caught him and some woman in the supply closet last month. She was calling him Dr. Feelgood." My hands clenched into fists. What did she look like? Blonde, about this tall, worked in insurance, real professional type. That night, I saw the Instagram post Sienna had mentioned. Vera and Lucas at their new condo, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning at the camera. The caption read, "New beginnings with my soulmate." They'd used my Netflix account to set up their smart TV. I could see they'd been watching romantic comedies and house-hunting shows, the same shows Vera used to watch with me back when she thought we had a future. "They really shouldn't have used my Netflix account," I told Frankie. "Amateur mistake." The next phase of my plan required patience. I started with small things. Lucas drove a pristine BMW that he parked in the hospital garage. I mixed paint stripper into his windshield washer fluid reservoir. Not enough to cause an accident, just enough to turn his windshield opaque the next time he tried to clean it. Then I filled his car seats with pink insulation foam through the sunroof he always left cracked open. By the time he discovered it, the foam had expanded and hardened, making his leather interior look like a birthday cake exploded. On his windshield, I wrote "loser" in soap letters. Frankie helped me with the technical aspects. "This is better than cable TV." He laughed as we watched Lucas discover his ruined car from across the parking garage. But I wanted more than petty vandalism. I wanted the truth to come out. Sienna, it turned out, was more hurt by Vera's betrayal than I'd realized. "She dropped me like a hot potato once she hooked up with Lucas," she confided over drinks. 12 years of friendship, gone. She said she needed to focus on her new relationship. "That must hurt," I said. "She's got photos on her phone," Sienna said bitterly. "Really intimate stuff with Lucas. Posted some on her private Instagram story. I screenshot a few before she blocked me." "Would you be willing to share those screenshots?" I asked carefully. Sienna smiled wickedly. "Accidentally post them to my public story? Oops." Within hours, half the town had seen the photos. Vera and Lucas in various states of undress, clearly taken in what looked like a hospital room. The timestamps showed they'd been taken while I was still getting chemotherapy treatments. The next day, I made a phone call to Lucas, disguising my voice slightly. "Dr. Brandt, This is Detective Morrison with the State Medical Board. We've received allegations regarding improper use of hospital facilities and potential prescription irregularities. We'll need to schedule an interview. I hung up before he could respond. The call was fake, but Lucas didn't know that. That evening, Lucas showed up at the construction site where I was working late. The warehouse was empty except for me, shadows stretching across the concrete floor. It felt like something out of a Stephen King novel, all echoing spaces and ominous atmosphere. "Elliot," Lucas said, trying to sound calm but failing. "We need to talk." I turned around slowly, letting him see how much weight I'd actually gained back, how healthy I looked. His face went pale. "You look good for a dead man," he said weakly. "Funny thing about terminal illnesses," I replied. "Sometimes they're not so terminal." Lucas backed toward the door, but I was bigger than him, stronger from years of construction work. I didn't touch him, just moved closer, letting my presence fill the space. "You stole my wife while you thought I was dying," I said quietly. "You sat in my living room, ate my food, pretended to be my friend, all while planning to take everything I had." "It wasn't like that," Lucas stammered. "Vera came to me. She was scared, alone." I slapped him. "Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to shut him up. You're not even man enough to steal a wife properly," I said. "You just borrowed mine." Lucas bolted for the door, stumbling over construction equipment in his panic. I let him go. An hour later, my phone rang. Vera. "Elliot, Lucas is missing. He was supposed to meet me for dinner, but he never showed up. His car is destroyed, and someone called him about a medical board investigation. Do you know anything about this?" "Check the nearest gutter," I said, and hung up. The hospital held its annual fundraising gala the following Saturday. It was the kind of event where everyone who was anyone in our small city showed up. Doctors, business owners, politicians, society wives. Vera would be there with Lucas, playing the part of the successful doctor's girlfriend. I bought a ticket. I spent the afternoon getting ready, new suit, fresh haircut, looking healthier than I had in months. When I walked into the hotel ballroom, conversation stopped. People who'd heard about my terminal diagnosis stared in shock. "Elliot Harper?" Mrs. Patterson, the mayor's wife, approached me with wide eyes. "My goodness, you look wonderful. How are you feeling?" "Never better," I said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Turns out reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. I spotted Vera across the room, elegant in a black dress, standing next to Lucas, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. When she saw me, her face went white. I made my way to the front of the room where the microphone was set up for speeches. "Excuse me," I said, tapping the mic. "Could I have everyone's attention?" The room quieted. Vera was shaking her head frantically, trying to signal me to stop. "Many of you know I was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer," I began. My wife, Vera, was devastated by the news. So devastated, in fact, that she decided she was too young to take care of a dying man. She left me for Dr. Lucas Brandt here. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lucas tried to disappear behind a potted plant. "But here's the funny thing about medical diagnoses," I continued. "Sometimes they're wrong. Turns out I'm going to live a long, healthy life. Unfortunately, I'll be living it without my wife, who apparently only loved me in sickness, not in health." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the presentation screen. "I thought you might enjoy seeing some photos from their relationship. They were so excited about their new beginning, they documented everything." The intimate photos Sienna had shared filled the screen. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. "She said she was too young to take care of me," I said into the microphone. "Guess she wasn't too old to sleep with my best friend." Officer Martinez, who was working security for the event, quietly approached Vera and Lucas. "For your own dignity," I heard him say, "you might want to leave." They fled through the back exit, but not before the entire room had gotten a good look at the photos. Mrs. Doyle, who'd somehow gotten an invitation, was taking notes for her neighborhood gossip network. I always knew she'd end up famous for the wrong reasons, she told anyone who would listen. 2 days later, Sienna called me. "You need to hear this," she said, and played an audio recording. It was Vera and Lucas, recorded without their knowledge during one of their romantic dinners. They were laughing about my illness, mocking my symptoms. "He's too stupid to know what's happening," Vera's voice said clearly. "He actually believes I'm at girls' nights with Sienna." "Poor bastard probably thinks we're just friends," Lucas added. "Meanwhile, we're planning our whole future." "He won't last 6 months," Vera said. "Then I'll be free, and we can get married. His life insurance will give us a nice start." My blood ran cold. She'd been planning for my death, counting on my life insurance money. "How did you get this?" I asked Sienna. "I felt bad about how I treated you," she admitted. "So I started recording their conversations when they didn't know I was around. This was from last week, right before you crashed their party." I had one final confrontation planned. I texted both Vera and Lucas, asking them to meet me at the warehouse for a final settlement discussion. I told them I wanted to divide our assets and discuss divorce terms. They showed up together, Lucas looking nervous, Vera trying to maintain her composure. "Elliot," Vera began, "I know you're angry, but we can work this out like adults." "Adults?" I repeated. "Is that what adults do? Plan their spouse's funeral while they're still alive?" The warehouse echoed with their voices, the laughter, the greed, the cold calculation about my death. When the recording ended, neither of them could speak. "You counted on me dying," I said. "Planned your new life around my funeral." Lucas bolted for the door. I dragged him into the office and locked it. His fists pounded against the glass. "This is kidnapping. This is mercy," I said. "You get to live with what you did." When I let him out, he stumbled past me into the rain. I didn't stop him. Vera stood trembling. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I'm pregnant. It's yours. We can fix this." "You can't fix betrayal," I said. "You only live with it." Later in the garage, I threw her suitcase into the puddles and watched her life scatter. Lucas's BMW sputtered and died. The crowd laughed as foam poured from its vents. That night at Murphy's, I raised my glass. To Vera and Lucas, may they always find each other in the dark because no one else will want them in the light. Outside, they stood in the rain, jobless, exposed, and alone. She said she was too young to take care of me. Turns out she's just old enough to regret it.